Hi everyone, this is Becky Gallagher, and this is my Module 7 learning walk. And I am going to be walking you through my life skills money math class. It is a functional math class that is intended to teach the students how to use money and set them up on basic life skills, such as going to the grocery store and can they give change, that kind of thing. So this was a little bit difficult for me in the sense that most of my students have not been all online. While yet last year when we had the shutdown at the end of the year, I was teaching an itinerant class, so it wasn't as in depth as life skills and functional math was. They were a little bit more independent. As my life skills kids, when we would work asynchronously from home, we were actually on Zoom all day. Um, and even when half the kids were hybrid, that wasn't offered to my students because they are full-time learning support students, so they have to be in school. So I tried to set this up in a way that could work if they were here as well as at home. And even if they're here, making sure that they're working on those independent pieces by themselves. So that's kind of how I geared this Google Classroom to. And I did test it out on a couple of my higher functioning students. And we'll get a little bit more into depth in that. I'll just start from the beginning and start going through. So most of this is synchronous and asynchronous. It goes back and forth. Every couple of days we are meeting in Zoom to touch base. Um, so right now I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. So here we all did Google Classroom, and this is my homepage, and there's not a ton on my homepage because a lot of my students get very distracted by too many options. So we're going to go ahead and go over to classwork. As you can see here, this is how I decided to set it up. I did a getting help at the top, a start here all together now. That's usually how I bring all my students together is I use the phrase all together now, and that is either they can answer unanimously or we're just working together. And then it was on your own. So there was days where they worked by themselves. So one of the things that's missing in mine that I noticed a lot of everybody else did was objectives and standards. My students don't understand that in the sense like a lot of them can't read by themselves. So posting all my objectives and my standards tends to just be overwhelming, and especially if their parents are helping them. So I'm just going to show you the layout that I created, that what I'll be using to check their work with, just so I can show you what I do. So I'm just going to bring it over here real quick. So most of my students are not ABC kids. They're pass or fail. So they have to be able to have a certain number of data before they move on to it. And it starts with the real basic of able to identify a penny, able to the values of these, going up to can they count groups of pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars? Can they add mixed groups of them? Can they give change and make purchases? So this is the one that we're mostly going to focus on, is making change and purchases, because most of my students can do the first identification level and the counting level at least up to the mixed dollars or mixed coins. So I just wanted to kind of give you the checklist that we do. Basically, I put a plus or negative if they achieved it and their date. With the making purchases, I'm going to actually use real data because I've created some actual slides for us to pull data from, rather than me just putting coins in front of them and that sort of thing. So that's why there is no objectives or standards at the top of this. So obviously I did how to use Zoom. This little video, yes, it is kind of long, but this one I've used with my students before. It's no one that I know, but I found it online to use. And he goes through all the different little mechanics of the student side of things, and helps them know how to, go into breakout rooms and such things. Oops, trying to move things. Ask the teacher. This is my Zoom, and I have a time available every day that I would be on, even when because I do have 2 students that are solely online, which is usually this time of the day. But since we're at the end of the year, there's, no classes. However, anyhow, they can meet with me at least once a day, even on asynchronous days, to make sure that they're doing everything correctly. So every day at those times, they can also set up meetings with me, my email, then my room and my extension, so they could just call in and get me if they need to. So I will come back up to this refresher money slides in a minute. So altogether now, this is our first day. We will be doing this all, as a group. And at the top of all the synchronous days, I have a Zoom link. If you notice here, I have 2 pre-tests. I have a number 1 and a number 2. I created 2 because if they got 100 on the first one, I wanted to see a little bit harder of where they are, because a lot of my students are on all different kinds of levels. So with our Zoom, we would have our morning meeting, and then we dive right into, practicing. So I used Google Forms, and they can go in here, and it's super simple. They just add up the mixed coins and they give me the answer. 10 questions. Now, my students struggle to read. A lot of the ones that struggle to read have one-on-ones that will read for them. And yes, they do go into their homes with them, or they are always online with them per Zoom. Even if I'm not there, they are. So there is someone there and available to read to them. So as you can see, the second pretest is a little bit harder, as it has a couple more options. It has bigger numbers, has different ways of putting the words in. So a lot of my students will probably struggle with this one, but I'd be interested to see which one would get that. Same with these kind of comparisons. The prices, the purchase, does he have enough? There's a little bit more word problems. So they would take this one first, and I already know several of my students that would be capable of going on to the second one, but this would at least give me a way to see immediately where they are. I'm going to leave those. So then I try and put like a little bit of a real life scenario into each one. This one's pretty simple. It's going in this, and it has just it's just organization. It's to a lot of my students need to actually have that pre-knowledge reminders, not just a simple quiz. So I decided to put this in just to have them organize. Everything just drags and drops. All they have to do is put it in there, and then I can just look down through and see how they did. Coin value, this one is very similar. This one is just making sure that we're matching the correct amounts. And then last, a ticket out. Now there's only ticket outs on the days that I have synchronous learning, because they're already turning in things for me on the asynchronous days. This one's just very similar to the one we just had. It's only a few questions. Oops, I need to go in and shorten those questions. I must have put the wrong one in there. I apologize. And it's just matching, because a lot of even though I do it every day, some days my kids can come in and not remember which one is a dime or a nickel. So it just makes sense to always have these reminders. So then the first day on their own, they do have a warm-up that is literally just them telling which is bills or coins. The next one is identifying coins. I know this just is a lot of activities by themselves, but once again, this is life skills, and it does build up as we do this. So all they're doing is dragging the coins worth 5 cents. Identifying dollar bills, which is fairly easy because they have the numbers on them. So there's only a couple questions in there. And then we start to get into counting money, where there is mixed options. Now, I do have some students that struggle with this. And that's kind of where I got a little stuck on these Google Classrooms. So if you guys have any suggestions, I would love to hear it, because some of my kids might not get to the mixed part and they literally might be stuck on pennies for the rest of the class. I do have one student, he's nonverbal and he can't do higher than pennies. So with this, I probably would create a separate Google Classroom strictly for him, or my lower functioning ones that are working on very simple questions. Then we have another day where we're all together. Zoom links here. We have a warm up money story problems. There's only about 4 of those questions, and I'll read and we'll do them together. Then we have vocabulary, which the kids will fill in, and that's going to lead us up to the real life part of this curriculum. Sorry. So, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to breeze through a little bit. So we have purchasing our items, that kind of stuff, and it goes down to total cost. They'll have a couple different things that they have to add up, put together and give me their totals. And these are all the ones that they're doing on their own. Everything is here. They literally, and they're allowed to use calculators, and they know that. Comparing prices, can they afford it? This is getting in towards that, here's how much money I have. Whoops, sorry guys. Here's how much I have, how much I want to buy, which, can I buy it? Can I afford it? That kind of questions. Then we have another all together day, which we're stepping into vocabulary 2, which is going to lead into our grocery store. And where's my assignment? Oh, I'm sorry. No wonder I had somebody say they couldn't find a few things. I apologize. I'll add that one up there. But then we will finish our class on this project is they're going to order from Domino's, and I give them the full menu. Then it breaks it down into, I have them tell me what these items cost because I want them to be able to go back and read the menus. I also have their exact price and then their exact total so they can see it in the works. Which one's expensive, less expensive, and the price difference. And then at the end of this, they will order with a $15 budget. And that does go into, it is the only thing for Module 6 for the most part, and it might run over into Module 7. This is the end of the activities, all the modules. And it is a game that they play, and it does have time on it. My students just finished time, so I thought including some of that would be helpful. It also gives them something that they're used to. So it's just a game. What times does the clock show? 11:05, so they click it, and then you click going. So then it's like he found $4 under his bed and 12 in his closet. How much did they find together? Well, just so, and then it tells them and it keeps letting them go back. It tells them and then they keep going. And it does keep track of your money over here on the side. So it's kind of fun just to give them something a little different and a fun way for me to see how they're doing in the class. All right, so I do have, every day they are turning something into me, so I am receiving different levels of assessments. With special ed, it does require that I do a little one-on-one with each student a week in each of their goals. So they will be meeting with me one-on-one, face-to-face for goals, as well as these ticket outs, the completion of each of these assignments, and I'll be checking them every day as they come in just to make sure that they're all where they need to be. So I did have one student from my class look through it, and he's definitely a higher functioning. He's on his way out. He's 17, so he'll be out next year. And he was actually able to go through this mostly on his own, but he is a strong reader. So I did give it to a couple of my lower functioning students, and they struggled. I think what I'm struggling with and would like to see do better is a way to accommodate that reading level that doesn't require me to do all videos all the time. So I'm open to any suggestions on that.